good evening, wherever you are in our wonderful universe. Welcome to another episode of Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible with myself, Dr. Dolores. We're going to talk about healing family trauma today because this is something that we're all exposed to in one way, shape, or form. I don't believe any of us gets away with not experiencing any degree of that. So today we're just going to pivot a little bit because my guest, Kristina Aldan, needed to reschedule. So we're going to talk about family trauma just from a real generic perspective. And I know from my personal experience, family trauma isn't just physical abuse. It's the emotional, mental, and maybe spiritual aspects that are involved. Abuse could be, not being taken care of when you're younger. Abuse can be when you're not good enough, or that you're never going to amount to anything. Those of abuse, and to the extreme, they could create PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder as well. What is really important to remember is that, the people who are the victims of this are the innocent people, because they really they're really not aware that maybe they're being abused. And it's a lot of times this happens in our immediate family, where a lot of our parents, in their experience up, it's just continues to move down the ancestors. Let me clarify that for a second. What happens sometimes, like say you're in a household where, your mom says at a young age that you're responsible for taking care of your siblings. And if you're under the age of 9 or even 5, that's an overwhelming thing, because who the heck's going to take care of you, right? But when you take it a step further and ask about their parents and their grandparents, maybe what was expected of them was that at 9 years old, they were taking care of the baby in their family. It's just, this is what is known within the family line. So a lot of times this abuse is just, and, I call it ancestral. It just comes through our lineage. That's just the way things are done, and the expectation is it gets forth, no matter how odd, not positive, not therapeutic, not, anything that would be, that you would consider, being loved, appreciated, and valued. So what I think is really important is to remember is that a lot of times what we experience are the projections of our parents that are projected onto us. Now, what happens sometimes is that if we are sensitive, empathic, or highly sensitive, or an empath, what happens is we don't have discerning boundaries of where we end and anything else begins. So this is more on automatic. We take this on as our own, thinking that we're going to heal it for the person, when in essence, it really isn't ours to deal with, period. So I think what is important to remember is that when you are in a situation like that and you're feeling overwhelmed or even triggered, I invite you just to take a deep breath, pull yourself back, and observe. Instead of reacting, observe. A lot of times you could break the momentum by just doing that, because what you really want to be aware of is that this isn't your stuff at all, okay? And this is where your power comes in, is that you have a choice in how you're going to be that. You could be reactive active, of course, or you could be contemplative and just realize, okay, this is not my stuff, and I choose no longer to participate in it, and you could walk away. Healing your family trauma now is really up for a lot of people, because as we progress into humanity's ascension, or our growth and development as human beings, this is no longer, it's too dense for us to carry with us to where we are going energetically from that perspective. So what we can do to help heal that within ourselves, and how we react, believe it or not, is like so just imagine that you have this beautiful still lake, which is maybe your family, okay, and the generations of your family. And you are a drop along with everybody else who's ever been in your ancestral lineage, including people today. We're all drops in when we drop our essence into that pool of water, or maybe that's the collective consciousness of your ancestral lineage. What happens is this: we create a ripple, and it goes out into that still pond, okay? Whenever you drop a pebble, that affects the whole body of water in one form. Principle, when we change our behavior or how we show up, we have the ability to change that. We're asking the person to change. That's kind of where it's a little interesting, because wanting to have the other person change, but not us. But it's really up to us. So when we change how we, if we act at all, or more contemplative, this allows us to offer some change. So show up differently when you get triggered by your family trauma, okay? That you're no longer participate. It's about setting boundaries. I also feel it's the ultimate of self-care. When you're able to realize what's going on, but not be affected by it, you win. You're observing that, and sometimes what you need to do is say that you're, pretty much, and just walk away, which is okay. Sometimes it's about protecting self, but in changing that, your boundary, and that's that little pebble of who you are, you change the boundary, you put it into that water, and it ripples out. So people are going to be affected. So now, what happens if you get a lot of pushback? If you're getting pushback, know that you are on the right path, okay? Because you are changing what that dynamic had been for a very long time. And changing it is a sign that you are no longer willing to tolerate. And by you setting a boundary, the fallout, realizing, oh, well, she's different, and it's affecting me now because she's not showing up the way that I thought she would or he would. So something to consider. So you're on the right track if you're getting fallout or you're getting pushback from people. Continue to carry on, and don't let that be overwhelmed with guilt, or I want to say guilt or shame or anything of that, because if you are experiencing, invites you to take a step deeper within yourself as to why that is so. Because nothing could make you feel guilted or shamed unless you allow that. And maybe it was how you were raised, that maybe you were in an environment where you were shamed, humiliated, and made to feel bad if you didn't conform. So these are things to think about and to put into play. But we will be talking more about healing your family trauma in the future. And one thing I am going to share with you is that I have some good news, is that starting on August 23rd, which is this Wednesday, Healing in ways you never thought possible will be changing formats and platforms. I will be broadcasting Inspired Choices Network, where you'll be the show will be broadcasted out to over 450 platforms. Also, the name of the show is going to be changed from Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible to the Dr. Dolores Show, where we're going to talk about everything that we've talked about in the 36 episodes that we put together here for you as we move forward. So it will be available on the ICN Inspired Choices Network. And my show is going to be Wednesdays at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. And it's a live show, and it starts at 1. It's from 1 to 2. So I invite you to come on over there. I will leave the link in the chat here for you, but also give that information out on my Facebook page and the YouTube page as well. So as a reminder, change is only constant in this world. We're always changing and evolving. And it's time to look at your family dynamics and how you show up in your family. And if there had been any type of trauma or abuse, like I said, emotional, mental, spiritual, and or physical, it's time to shift that and create something different. And trust me, when you work on yourself with this, you have the ability to transform up to 7 generations in the past and in the future. Because remember, everything is happening at the same time. Linear time no longer exists, past, present, and future. It's all happening in tandem at the same time. So what you do now heals the generations before you and potentially heals the generations in front of you. And what a gift to be able to give your ancestors, because I'm sure they were suffering as well. And it's time for it to stop and yield. So with that in mind, I wish you a very beautiful day. I look forward to you in the next episode. And if you would like to learn more about being in the present moment, because many of us are not, there's a link for meditation, and it's drdoloresfazzino.com/free-video. It's a meditation to help you ground in the present moment. Why do we need more of that? Because so many of us are bouncing into our head and worrying about yesterday and contemplating tomorrow. What really matters is right now. Signing off, have a blessed day, and talk to you soon.